All right, guys, welcome back to Fast Break Threes Basketball Meshed Up. We're here on episode number 9, and I've got a special guest joining me in the form of Whisper, which, first of all, I have to say that is a killer name and
Thank you.
the first Whisper I've ever met in my life, and probably be the last. So, let's get going. Do you want to give a brief introduction about yourself? Basic facts, basketball, what you do, why you love the game. Floor's yours.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. So yeah, I'm Whisper. It is my real name. It's not a nickname. Everybody always asks me if there's like a nickname.
Yeah.
But yeah, my name is Whisper. I've been playing basketball my entire life. I graduated from Syracuse University, but I played basketball at St. Joseph's University and Syracuse before I went to go play in Europe for 4 years.
Wow. Okay.
But even before that, I came from a basketball family, so it was kind of inevitable that I played basketball. My
Yeah.
mom played at University of Kentucky, and my dad played at Loyola Marymount in California, and then he transferred to Kentucky. He didn't play there, but and then my dad's brother played in Europe as well. He has a family there now. My mom's
Yeah.
siblings all played basketball, so it's like I really didn't have a choice.
Yeah. You got no option.
Yeah, so I played basketball growing up. I actually didn't get good at basketball until I was probably around like 12 or 13. So I was a kind of a late bloomer, kind of like Brianna Stewart. Like I think she got started pretty late too, even later than 12 or 13. But I
Yeah.
wasn't one of those kids that like came out the womb just killing it. I was not. I was
Yeah.
not really good at all. But I was just the type of person that was really disciplined and really just tried hard, and that's what got me this far,
Yeah.
honestly. So yeah, I played in college. I played in Europe for 4 years. My first year in Portugal, second year in Finland, and then my last 2 seasons I played in Czech Republic. So I've really loved it. And basketball has meant a lot to me just because I've been able to see the world because of basketball.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
no, there's not many sports in the world besides I think like soccer that allow you to travel as much as basketball has. So just being
Yeah.
able to see the world, see different cultures has meant a lot to me. And then just like the sport in general, like if you're an athlete, it just builds a different type of like drive and discipline in you. So I'm just
100%.
grateful for everything the sport has brought to me. And this
Definitely.
is the team I played on. So I'm repping my team in Czech Republic right
Yeah. And going back to, I think, playing in Europe and stuff, I mean, I've seen videos around of, players that do go overseas and kind of try to, build on their craft. How was that experience for you compared to growing up in the college system in the US?
It's definitely different. My first year was definitely a learning curve because in college, most of your coaches in US college are going to make you play as a team player, like pass the
Yeah.
ball, set a screen, do this. And when you go to Europe, they want you to be LeBron James. So they're like, why are you passing the ball? You should have shot it. So
Yeah.
my first year was definitely a learning curve because I realized that I was way too passive. I was just trying to be a great teammate because that's what I
Yeah.
was in college. Be the
Yeah.
supportive teammate. And they're like, we're not paying you to be supportive.
Yeah. Yeah. You gotta go be the person.
Yeah, you got to be the dog on the team. And so my first year was definitely a struggle for me just because it was so unlike me. It was
Yeah.
not like that. That was never me as a player. So my first year, I struggled a little bit. But then after my first year, I realized like, okay, if I want to continue my career, I can't be like this. Like I have to turn it up a little bit more.
Yeah.
So that was like the biggest difference I would say is just going from very team focused playing style of basketball in college and then coming to Europe and they're like, we're bringing foreign players over here to be
Yeah.
the best player. Like you gotta
Yeah.
play.
Exactly.
Um,
You're the
and then
number one
also,
option on that team.
yeah, number one option. So
Yeah.
there's no pass. Like, what do you do? What do you mean you're passing the ball? Like, no.
Yeah.
Um, the other big difference I would say is just playing style is pretty different
Yeah.
abroad. Like I know, well, one, the court is different. I know now they've changed the rule in college, so I think they sh are shooting at the FIBA 3-point line in college. But when
Okay.
I was in college, FIBA line and the US college line were different. FIBA line is
Okay.
further back. And then even like the lane lines on the floor are smaller in US
Smaller.
college
Yeah.
than
Yeah.
Europe as well. So that was just I did get a little taste of it because when I was at St. Joe's, we took a foreign tour to Italy one year and we
Okay.
played
Yeah.
for 2 weeks. So we had to train the European rules and everything.
Yeah.
So that
Yeah.
was a difference. And I would say the last big difference I almost forgot about. The way they call travels in Europe is so different. My first year, like travel call, travel call. And I'm
All
like,
the
what
time.
do
Yeah.
you mean travel? I didn't understand. Like the way they do it is like in college, you can rip the ball and then step and dribble. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
that's fine. In
Yeah.
Europe, it's a travel every time.
Yeah, that's
It's
right. Yeah.
like
You got to
my
dribble before you step.
yeah. So
Yeah.
like my first year in Czech Republic, actually, I got one of my games. I had so many turnovers. I had like 6 or 7 turnovers.
All
And like
travel.
dad's yeah, all travels. My dad's calling me like he's like, Whisper, why you keep turning the ball over? I said, I don't know what's happening. I didn't know what the like I didn't know what was wrong.
Yeah.
So I had to
Yeah.
sit with my coach and I'm like, can you explain it to me? Like I cannot have 7 turnovers a game.
Yeah.
Like
No way. Not every game.
yeah, it looks horrible. Like
Yeah.
it looks terrible. But yeah, that was definitely a huge learning curve for me, just learning how not to travel in
Yeah, of
Europe.
course, 100%. And
Yeah.
I think so you did say the playing styles are a bit different. I know in terms of the men's game, you always get those debates on, the NBA is really loose, no one plays defense, fouls are easy
Mhm.
to come by. Is that a similar trend in the women's game over in Europe as well, where it's a lot more physical?
Oh my gosh, is
Yeah.
it?
Yes.
Very, very physical. Oh my gosh, I have so many pictures of me getting slapped in the face, like ref's not calling it. There's a picture that I have, it's hilarious, and it's me
Yeah.
yelling at the ref because I had just gotten hit, and there's
Yeah.
a me yelling at the ref. But yeah, it's very, very physical. It's definitely like it makes me want to play harder, but it definitely can be frustrating at times, especially like coming from US college where they're gonna call these type of fouls, and then
Yeah,
coming straight to
100%.
and you're like, what? Like she just punched me in my stomach. Where's the foul call? Like
Yeah, yeah.
and I remember I had a friend, he came to visit me my first year in Czech Republic, and I was telling him kind of how the game was. He watched one game live and he said, "Oh my gosh." He said, "You're getting beat up." He's like, "I didn't know you were being for real." I said, "Yes. This is
Yeah.
real. Like this is real life. I'm getting punched. I'm
You're like, this is
like,
what I go through every single
I
day.
go through every, just got my hair pulled last game. It's okay."
And that's why, like, even here when we get like Europeans that come over, like, I only play pickup and stuff like that, but the intensity and the physicality that they play with, like, we're normally pretty chill and we'll play defense, but we're not gonna, try to put a shoulder through anyone or anything like
Yeah.
that. But like the intensity they come with, and then I think after like the first 1 or 2 runs they have, they're like, okay, like I need to calm down. Like it's
Yeah.
not the opposite. But yeah, sounds like it's a very similar experience in the women's game as well. So I think it must just be a culture thing over in Europe in the sense of how they play basketball.
Definitely, because across the board, like no matter what country I've played in, it's
Yeah.
just been very physical, very aggressive, just like dang, like sometimes you're just like, okay,
Leave me alone.
relax.
Yeah, like, leave me alone. Don't touch me. Nah, that's awesome. Cool. Thank you for that. Great intro. I will move on to, I guess, some thoughts around. So I think as a lot of people this season with the Caitlin Clark hype coming out of her March Madness run and then into the WNBA, I've kind of hopped on as well and started watching more games. I mean, to be honest, probably the most games I've ever watched in my life in one season. So in terms of the WNBA, what do you think? First of all, what do you think Caitlin Clark has done for it? But do you think the league was already in such a place that it's growing anyway, but then Caitlin Clark was kind of like the fuse that really ignited all the teams and I guess the crowds.
Yeah, definitely. I'm with Caitlin, she's definitely brought so many more eyes to the game, which I am so grateful for because the WNBA has been growing, but it's been really, really slow. And I
Yeah,
think what Caitlin has been able to do is force the WNBA to like put it on TV, put it on, you
yeah,
know, advertise it more. So I'm just like, no matter if you are a Caitlin Clark lover or hater, you cannot deny like what she's been able to bring
yeah,
to the WNBA. And that's what like, just being a women's player in general, it's something that as a female athlete, you want so bad like your whole career. You're just like, can people pay attention to us? Can people
yeah,
just see?
exactly. Yeah,
So it's been exciting that like even though Caitlin's such a great player, it's been able to introduce people to other great players in the WNBA too. So now see people like, oh, who is Enrique? Oh, who is this person? Like so now they're
yeah,
like other players are really great too. So that's really exciting to see. And I'm just excited at the trajectory that is taken off so fast. And it's sad that it had to take one person to do that. I wish that the WNBA would have been doing this before, but I'm
Yeah.
glad that, I feel like it's a great time right now. People are more on their phones, more on social media, so it's easy to spread the word. So I'm really excited about that because I know my last year of college, it was like 2019-ish. I was watching the WNBA
Yeah.
finals, I believe,
Yeah.
and I couldn't find it on TV. I think I could probably only see like two of the games on like
Yeah.
regular cable TV. And
Yeah.
I'm like in my room, like, this is not okay. Why
Yeah.
can I not watch a finals game? Like, that's ridiculous. And so now, like, fast forward from 2019 to now and being able to watch every game on TV, like, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And so I'm just really like, she definitely did a great job. Even Angel Reese, like, being able to get her demographic in and her fan base in, honestly, the rookie class,
Yeah.
outstanding. I am so proud
They were
of the rookie
excellent this
class
year. Very.
because not only are they great players, but the way that they've been able to brand themselves is
Yeah.
perfect. Now, like, even if we're not even talking WNBA games, just looking at all the endorsements that have come out of this, like now
Definitely.
you see the girls on Skims commercials. You see them with like the hair products and stuff. Where was
Yeah.
this years ago? They weren't doing
Yeah.
it.
Exactly
And
right.
so
Exactly
now,
right.
like this fast, it's swish, and now you see the girls in this commercial and a New Balance commercial and that. So
Yeah.
honestly, just as a female athlete, it's been so exciting to see like finally, they're trying because for
Yeah,
a while,
they're trying. I
so,
think it goes back
yeah,
to you saying, like with the social media gain, I guess, and everyone, being on their phones and stuff, easier access to the players. I know it was the first year that they televised the draft as well. So there's like little things and little steps that is definitely starting to come through the WNBA, which is I mean, I think that's wild. When you were saying in 2019, you could barely get it on TV for a national league not
yes,
being
finals.
televised or advertised in a way where you're trying to get the population involved. Um, I think it's definitely come a long way in those last 5 years for sure.
Definitely has. And I'm just really glad, like, with all the eyes on the game now, it forces them to do better because now you have more people talking about it. So now they can't just like not advertise it because then people are going to complain about it,
Yeah,
So
exactly.
I,
Exactly right. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
So I love
100%.
that. Yeah, I love that it forces them to like push it out there more. Like that's just really exciting to me. And this is just the first year it's taken off like that. So I can't even wait for like when Paige Beckers comes into the league and all these
Exactly. Yeah.
other college girls come. Like I'm just excited for. I'm like, wow. And
Definitely.
like I was so I live like in Maryland. So we have the Washington Mystics.
Yeah.
And I remember going to the games this year and it's like sold out crowd, like
Yeah.
lines around the door, like it's great. And then like a few years ago when they were playing in Capital One Arena, and this is selling out Capital One Arena,
Yeah.
they years ago when they were in Capital One Arena, you see like there's more seats that you can count empty than you can count filled. And
Yeah.
so
Okay.
like now going to the game and I went to watch them play who was it? Chicago Sky in Capital One Arena.
Yeah.
It's sold out. People's like floor seats are booked. Everything is like the environment was just amazing. And then
Yeah.
even like New York Liberty, I went to the New York Liberty game versus Dallas Wings. Environment crazy. Like it
Crazy.
just
And I
gets you
think
so hyped.
basketball is definitely one of those sports where it's really easy to build hype.
Yeah,
It's a quick game. You don't really need everyone invested for, it's not like football where you have to sit there for 4.5 hours watching a whole game.
right,
You can really
right.
like pack it all in 2 hours, get your hype, got a good DJ, set the
Yeah.
tone really early in terms of going to the games and your stadiums. And then yeah, I think if the crowd brings the energy especially in the US, which I noticed the most, is like everyone is so passionate about all their teams. So
Hmm.
crowd energy, I don't think is ever an issue. Like even the Washington Wizards over the last few years, they've been terrible. Yet the fans always show up. Like
Right.
there's always fans there. This is what I mean. I think the difference here, like in Australia, if your team's doing terrible, like in any sport, not just basketball, you'll see people just stop going to games, and then
Yeah.
they start coming out when suddenly they all improve and they're in the
Yeah.
final. Whereas I think in the US, everyone is just so loyal, and
Yeah.
yeah, they'll show up to anything pretty much.
Yeah, and that just reminded me too. That was one thing I loved about Europe too.
Yeah,
Those fans, they go hard.
yeah,
Oh
yeah,
my gosh. When I my first year in Czech Republic, I was so shocked because my team was coming off of when I joined the team, they were coming off of a not really good year. Like they had
yeah,
just changed coaching change, they had a losing season. So you would think people wouldn't show up. When
yeah,
I tell you they're showing up with, drums, like they got It's
Let's
crazy.
go
Like
on. Yeah.
it's crazy. It's wild. And I'm like, wow, like it just hyped me up so much. And I'm
Yeah.
like, I love this. Like it is, it fuels just like the whole atmosphere. Like it's just crazy. So
Yeah.
Europe does a great job too with their fan base.
With their fans as well. Yeah, I think that's where Australians kind of lack in that sense. But I mean, I think it's growing. I mean, I'm talking in general in terms of all sports,
Yeah,
whereas they disappear when the team's not doing too well, and then suddenly show up when you're in the finals.
when they're
But
good.
I think that hopefully that changes, but because we don't really have the college culture here where you're super passionate about your college and then you stay or
Yeah.
whatnot. It's kind of you pick a team or your family's got a team that they've supported and then you
Mhm.
just roll with it. So
Just run
you're
with
kind of
it.
stuck with them. Yeah, you're stuck with
Yeah.
them for the rest of your life. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think the fans in the US, Europe, they do an excellent job in terms of hyping it up. Any game, doesn't matter how good your team's going, they always show up for you. So I think that's very, very important. In terms of the WNBA, what do you think the season? I think let's narrow it down. Let's say, did you? I'm assuming you watched all of the finals, all 5 games.
Yes.
What did you think of that?
Like it's hard for me to put into words.
Yeah,
It was awesome. Like I feel like I was so glued to the TV. The first game, I didn't even watch the beginning of the game. I was
yeah,
actually like in my house, like doing like chores or something. Like I really wasn't focused on the game. Then like after halftime, I sat down. My dad and my mom were watching it, and when I tell you I was hooked to the TV,
yeah,
like I
yeah.
always used to make fun of my dad because when my dad watches games, he's like yelling at the TV. I'm like, Dad, they can't even hear you. And then I'm watching the game. I'm yelling at the TV. I'm like clapping. They can't hear me either. But hype. It was so good, and I was hoping that it went all 5 games because
Yeah,
my favorite team is the Aces, so I didn't really care who won between the
exactly.
Lakers and Liberty.
Yeah,
I just wanted to go to 5 games. I'm like, it's just so exciting. I didn't want it to end, so
yeah,
each game I'm just like, okay, please go to an overtime. Okay, good. Let's go to the
yeah.
next. So
The
I
next day.
didn't want it to be like a 3-0 or nothing. I'm just like, just 5 games. Let's get it to 5 games, and then even the last game, just it went down the wire, and
Yeah,
that
yeah.
just
I watched that last game as well.
yeah, it was so exciting. Like I was so hyped. I didn't know who was gonna win. I didn't really care who won. It was just
Yeah.
if one team was in the lead, I'm like, okay, I hope the other team catches up. Like I
That's
just
yeah,
you
exactly. It was
know.
such a. I mean, that whole series though. I think I probably watched 3 games in totality.
Mhm.
But the amount of runs that came from both sides, and then obviously it was close. I think what two of them went to overtime.
Yeah,
It was an unreal series, and it was really gritty, which
yeah,
I don't think you see as much in the men's game. I would say
yeah.
like some of these games were quite low scoring, real tough defense. And obviously,
Mhm.
game 5, people are going to turn up for defense. But even prior to that, all through the whole series, I think it was really excellent to see that the refs were kind of letting them play as well,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
which we want to see more of because when you're out on the court as a competitor, you don't mind if you get, a little tap here or there. Obviously, it's the most obvious foul calls that don't get called where people get
Mhm.
upset. But
Yeah.
if you're out playing, pick up or as you're going through, AAU or whatever the system is, I'm sure you get hit all the time, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah,
All
so seeing it in a final stage where the refs were like, we're good with it, keep going, unless it was
Mhm.
blatant. I think that was really good to see, and I think that's what kept the game so engrossed in terms of everyone wanted to watch it. No one wanted to take their eyes
Yeah,
off of it.
yeah. It was
Um,
really exciting. Like even just the last game on both sides, like you said, it's a game of runs. And
yeah,
just even like the last game, Brianna Stewart and Sabrina, they weren't even making shots. But
no,
Sabrina was like 0 for like 8 or 0 for 9. Like she was just not hitting
yeah,
anything. And
yeah,
she finally hit the big three. And I'm like, wow, like, all right, like we turn it up now.
yeah,
And
that's right.
Brianna Stewart, then Brianna Stewart was struggling too, and she was like missing like layups she normally makes, missing the free throw. So
Yeah,
it was just like it was definitely a nail biter, but it just made it so it was just so much more interesting just to see it like, okay, who's gonna pull it out? Like, it was great. And then you see players like Courtney Williams. I didn't never really watched her like that before.
yeah,
But
100%,
this
yeah,
season, during this series, I'm like, Courtney Williams,
Yeah, yeah.
like
She's definitely a dog. Like, my
she's a
God,
dog.
she hustles for everything.
Yes, the one game, I don't know if it was game two or three. I can't remember which game it was in the series
Yeah.
when Sabrina fouled her at the 3-point line and she
I think that was game one, wasn't it? To
game
take it to
one.
overtime, I
Oh,
think.
it was
Game
over.
one?
Yes,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
game one. Yes, when I tell you, hopped up out of my seat, like I'm screaming,
Yeah.
like yeah, the whole series was definitely exciting. And like you said too, just comparing it to the men's game, just defensively is definitely different. I
Yeah.
feel like even this last game, low scoring game, and I think just defensively for the women's game, it's more we take it more seriously. We have to play defense. The
Yeah.
men's game I feel like women's game I feel like is a lot more technical.
Yeah,
Men's
okay.
game relies a lot on like athleticism and just
Yeah.
like
And just being better
you know,
than the person in front of
just
you.
being better. Yeah, just
Yeah.
being flashy, just being better, just being able to dunk, whatever you want to do, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And but that's what I like about the women's game is that you see people take it to heart. Like, I'm not gonna let you score on me. Like you did it. Like they take it like, oh, like I'm not about to let
Yeah.
you do it. And then they get
Yeah.
serious. So I
Yeah.
love that about the women's game is that they play both ends of the court. It's not just offensively, it's like defensively too. They want to shut you down. And so yeah, I definitely notice a difference with men. Men are is a different type of excitement versus women. Like men are exciting because they can do cool
Yeah,
tricks
it's
and
flashy and yeah, it's
flashy and
that.
yeah.
Yeah.
And the women's exciting just because like they really just get down and work hard.
Yeah, yeah. And I think for a league that's growing, people do want to see that. Like people want to see you competing to your highest level. It doesn't matter if you hitting five threes a game or you're getting five steals a game.
Mhm.
As a league that's growing and in terms of the women's sport that's growing, you want to see just people competing. Like
Right.
you want to see the athlete wanting to be out there. It's not,
Right.
this half-assed person just running up and down the court, not really caring.
Yeah. Nobody
Um,
wants to see it.
yeah, no one's gonna watch that either.
Yeah.
So yeah, actually seeing both teams compete and give it their all, like you said, on both ends of the floor, I think that's super important for a sport or a league that's trying to grow.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm really excited to see because I know they have like the Unrivaled League coming out soon too. So I'm excited to see what that looks like. It'll be their first season. I don't know when they actually start, but
Yeah,
I know they have like 6 teams in that, and they're supposed to get like the best players in WNBA. I don't know if
yeah,
Caitlin is a good player now, but I'm excited to see that too. Like that's just I think just them being able to build off of the WNBA and do that 3-on-3 tournament too is just
definitely.
they're on a good path. They're on a great path.
Yeah, 100%. And like, I mean, you've seen quotes around where, they're saying what it's like their 20th, 30th year in the league, like as a league or whatnot, compared to the
Yeah.
NBA that's been around for 100
Mhm.
years.
Yeah.
Um, it's slow steps, and I think the more that people you get like figures in the sense of Caitlin Clark to grow the
Mhm.
sport as an individual, but then once you do get people in through the gates and into those stadiums, it becomes everyone's responsibility to keep them there, right? So
Right.
all the players on the court, it's not just one person that they're here to see,
Yeah.
it's everyone.
Yeah.
And I think
Think that
slowly they're doing a great job in that as well.
yeah, and they are. And I think that's something to be mindful of too, is just I think people do forget that the WNBA is still very new.
Yeah.
And I know some people have expectations like, oh, they should be doing this, they should be doing that. It's like realistically speaking though, like they
Yeah.
are still fairly new, so that it's not as easy as it sounds. Like the
Yeah.
NBA is miles ahead because they've been doing this for over 100 years, you know?
Yeah.
So I think it's definitely something that people have to give them a little bit of grace.
Yeah.
With it, like, it takes time, but they're on the right track. This year was definitely proof of that. And then I know they just recently they were saying that the Players Association was opting out of
Yeah.
the
Out of the
deal.
agreement.
So yeah, so that's exciting to see like how that even transformed for the next season. But they're on the right track though.
Yeah, agreed, 100%. I think in terms of growing the game, they're definitely on the right track. What I guess do you see might stop the growth in terms of the women's sport, or do you think they're doing really well at the moment, where you kind of just have to see season by season how it grows if they can get some kind of proper TV deals like the NBA have? But what would you say are some of the hurdles that are stopping that?
Um, I'll be interested to see how it grows, but I will say that one thing I would wish they wouldn't do that much and I won't even really blame the WNBA. I would really just blame the media.
Yeah,
Um, just the media not highlighting more players and giving more storylines, and then
Yeah.
also the media highlighting the negatives and not always the positives. Because
Mhm. Yeah.
people love drama. People unfortunately
Of
love
course.
drama.
Yeah. I mean,
They
reality
love,
TV is still around for one reason.
yeah,
Like,
they
yeah.
love it. And
Yeah.
that was one thing that I feel like kind of took away from some of the games this year was that media would take a small quote, spread it out there, give no
Yeah.
context, and then
Yeah.
you have people angry. So like
Yeah.
moving forward to grow the game, I would wish that they would focus on more like highlighting positive stories and just highlighting more stories of players in general. Because I
Yeah.
know, I grew up playing women's basketball, so I'm more familiar with a lot of the players. But for somebody who's getting new into the league, they need to be told about some of these other players too,
100%.
because
100%.
now, I hang like sometimes in the summer times I coach with the Washington Wizards Junior Wizards program.
Yeah.
And all those kids, they only know two names, Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese. That's
Yeah.
it.
That's
Know
it.
anybody else?
Yeah.
And anybody else. And some of the kids, like we took them to a Washington Mystics game. They have no idea who's playing. And they're like, this is my favorite team. But you don't know who's playing. You
Yeah.
don't know,
Like you don't know
you
any
don't
of the players.
they only
Like,
know two players. That's it. Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark. So
yeah.
like moving forward, I would love to see them, take the time. Obviously, don't stop highlighting, the people who are bringing in the most engagement,
Of
but
course.
also being able to shine light on some of these other players, like just coming off of this championship, being able to highlight, you know, Courtney Williams, Nafisa
Yeah.
Collier, like they had crazy,
Crazy
performance.
videos.
To being
Yeah.
able to
Yeah.
share their stories and well, I think the WNBA could do it different than the NBA. The NBA doesn't always do as much storytelling, but they don't really have to.
No,
They're
and I
probably
think the NBA is just so star driven where it's like, I mean, obviously the media just puts whatever clickbait material
yeah.
they do, and
I
usually
mean,
it's
that's all they have
like
to do.
LeBron, Luca, when they've
Yeah.
already got their stars in place. Like you said, but even with the NBA having their stars in place, they also have that next tier down. Like everyone knows
Mhm.
who Donovan Mitchell is, but who's the
Right.
Donovan Mitchell of the WNBA? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I think
It's like it's
that's where
missing.
you
It's
go.
like you only have like five people. You could ask somebody, they can maybe name five WNBA players, and you ask them a little bit more, and they're like, "Oh, I don't know. I
Yeah.
I don't, I don't know."
That's it.
And so
Yeah.
being able to market the other players, I think, will help a lot, especially
Mhm.
because they're expanding to new teams as well. So it's
Yeah.
like being able to focus on some of these other players, share their stories, make people talk about them, and highlight other great players, I think is going to grow the game more. That way, it's nice to have a little rivalry too. So it'll be
Exactly.
good,
Yeah.
like, besides the top two names, like let's talk about like let's get to five or six, like let's get six names.
At least let's at least try
Yeah,
to double it by the end of next
yeah,
season.
let's try to double it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that'll help grow the game a lot. But yeah, I would say just the negativity would probably be the biggest hurdle, just because I think it takes away from the game sometimes,
Yeah.
and it can create a negative fan base fueled by like just anger
Just
versus
yeah. Yeah.
yeah, and and you saw that a bit on social media this season, just people just being angry,
Yeah, I
like,
know. I know there was a massive divide in terms of like the Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese,
yeah.
like, apparently the old heads hating on Caitlin because
Yeah, yeah, and
X,
it's just
Y
like
bandwagon. Yeah.
you don't need that. Like that's
No.
not we don't want that attention,
No,
So
yeah,
being
exactly.
able to like just have your great players and love them and promote them, like I think
Yeah.
having a more positive lens will definitely be more helpful.
Yeah, nah, 100% agreed. And I think you'll get to it. And like you said, there's a few other young girls coming through, which we'll see over the next few years, which bring that hype with them already through
Yeah,
college. So coming back into the big leagues, hopefully it's not just all dramatized in that sense.
yeah,
And kind of get a filter down of like in terms of the NBA, you've got superstars, Steph, LeBron, KD, and then you've got like your all-stars and that kind of trickle
Mhm.
down effect. Hopefully, we do start seeing that a lot more in the WNBA, where you start to rattle off 20 names instead of two.
Right.
Yeah,
Too. Right, right. And I think the other thing that helps with the younger girls is that they're more onto like social media. So they're on TikTok. So they're
exactly.
building their individual fan base now
Yeah,
versus like some of the vets who may not be comfortable with social media because they didn't grow up in that
they didn't
era
grow
of
up with it. Yeah,
yeah. And so now I think that's the biggest difference too now. Like I think Angel and Caitlyn probably have over 1 million followers. Like, like their following count is crazy. And
yeah,
some of these other players too, they're following on TikTok and all that. It's numbers are through the roof. So I
Yeah.
think being able to capitalize on that is just going to help grow the game because you already have eyes on them as individual, and then those
Yeah.
people will follow them when they get to the league, and it just grows upon that.
Nah, definitely. Nah, that's awesome. I've got one question for you, which I've just thought of as we are talking. So,
Mm.
was there a moment when you've been playing basketball against a guy, a man, where I guess you've been underestimated, or he's like, "Oh,
Have I?
I'm not gonna defend you," etc., etc. Let me hear the story.
So many. It's the thing is, it's happened so many times. It's like it's more than one.
Yeah.
I'll use my most recent example. Um, so I was playing against my boyfriend actually. It was before we were officially dating. And first time, first time I get the ball on the post, and I
Yeah.
just power dribble, boom, right into his chest.
Yeah.
He backed up. He was like, "Oh wow." And I'm like, "Yeah, see, like don't play light on me. Like I'm gonna play hard."
Yeah. Yeah.
So I kept like becoming, I was just very physical with him. And I just kept doing it intentionally because guys just like, I hate when guys act like, oh, she's a girl. Like, I'm not going to play defense.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
defense on me. And so I like to be aggressive and do that. And like one time I was at the YMCA too, I was playing against a bunch of guys
Mm.
and I was just playing my game. And they're just
Yeah.
like, once they saw me playing, they're all like, oh, wow. Oh, wow. Yeah. Like I could do
Yeah.
this thing.
And
Like,
yeah, 100%. And I have
oh,
no doubts you're like 10 times better than the average, like, pickup guy that you see at a YMCA. So,
and my favorite
that's
is
right.
like I don't like talking about it, so I'm like one of those like I'll just come in low key, like look like I'm not
Yeah.
good, I don't know how to play, you know.
Yeah.
And then I just start hooping, and they're just like shocked. But I tell them all the time, like if I'm playing with guys, sometimes I'll tell them before the game too, like you can play defense on me, like it's okay.
Yeah.
But then
Yeah.
on the flip side, sometimes you have guys who like when they find out you're good, then their ego gets hurt, and then they want
Yeah, that's right.
extra hard.
Yeah.
And so like, I played once the same game that I was playing at the YMCA. I
Yeah.
was beating the guys, like I was doing really good, and there's like an old head on the sideline watching.
Yeah.
He comes in. This man starts guarding me so hard. Like when I tell you, you're hearing like the slaps on my like he's slapping me like he's not letting me catch the ball. And I'm
Yeah.
like, bro, like it is all right. Like it's okay.
It's okay. Someone can
It's
be
o-
better than you.
yeah,
Like,
it's okay. So you have two sides of it. You have the guys who just don't play defense at all, and you have the guys who are like, oh no, she's not gonna show me up. I'm gonna knock her head off.
yeah, nah, definitely. And I think in relating to that story, so me and one of my mates, we used to play pickup here. It was like a 2 hour run. You'd literally pay $5, get split into like some different teams, and then you just run like 5 minute games off on and off consistently. And we used to call her Auntie. I don't actually know her name, but my mate does know her name. And she used to bring a niece with her. I think her niece was like 15, 16. And so going to a couple of these sessions every week, well, I got to know that she was actually an ex Australian hooper. So I
Mm,
think about like probably played maybe now 15 years ago or so, went to the Olympics, whatever. And these particular runs we used to go on, there would be a lot of young ballers, so like, 16 to 20. And I think once you've reached that level of competitive sport, you never lose that fire, right? Like once
yeah,
you're on the
yeah,
court, you're always competitive. And like you said, none of the guys would guard her, and she would be an absolute knockdown shooter. Like me and my
yeah,
mate, all we'd do would be like drive, pass out, three.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
we wouldn't have to do anything else.
yeah.
And it would like I find it baffling. I think when you recognize a player's good, yes, you
Hmm.
should give them the respect, right? But I
Yeah,
think these guys being kids, they're like, oh, she's a woman. As
yeah,
blunt as that sounds, it's like, yeah,
yeah.
we're not going to
That's
defend.
how they think.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and she was just cooking every single time. Like
yeah,
we'd barely come off the court, and me and my mate
yeah,
would score like 2 points. Like, she had
yeah.
all of them.
Just,
So yeah,
just get the ball. Just go
yeah,
ahead.
just
Just
give
do
her
it.
the
Yeah,
ball. And then like I mean, again, being like talking about the competitive side of it, she was so competitive. Like she would take no shit. Like
yeah,
you play the game the right way, you play it tough, but you don't do dumb shit.
yeah, yeah,
But yeah, like I think that's always awesome to see. One of our regular runs that we have on Saturday, we have a girl come with us as well, who's one of the OGs who set up the group. So it's real fun, and I think it's one of those sports you can play mixed, especially
yeah,
like in this level. Like
Yeah.
no one's gonna come and like dunk on your head or anything like
Yeah,
that.
yeah. Yeah, and I
But
love
yeah,
like honestly, Australian ballers are very good too. Like we always talk about that. If we have like an Australian coming on the team, we already know that they're going to be good.
yeah, okay,
Like Australians are like I don't know what's in the water over there in Australia,
yeah,
but you guys have a lot of talent coming out of there. I
yeah,
had a teammate at my in my college. She was Australian, very very good,
yeah,
just a player. So like Australia is they have I actually wanted to play in Australia. I never got the chance to. I got injured last year, so I wasn't able to go. But
yeah.
Australia is definitely a place that I would love to travel. Love to. Besides, like I've heard that you guys have like crazy bugs and all that stuff. Besides
Me
that,
too, but honestly, if you're living in the city, you're not gonna see one. Like
okay,
very
that's good
rarely
to
will you
know.
see one. Yeah,
That's good to know because that was
yeah,
like on my list of like things that might keep me from going was the bugs. But basketball wise though, like you guys have great athletes over there.
definitely. Like we're brought up on sport here, so every
Yeah,
Saturday morning, your parents will be taking you to whatever sport. You're probably playing two different sports every season, one in the
yeah,
evenings, one at night. So, and I think that naturally, from what I've seen here, people are quite competitive here in Australia for sure, especially when you start getting a bit older and into some, obviously competitive leagues and competitive sports. I mean, no one likes to lose, right? So,
right.
and winning's always that much more fun. So,
Right, right.
so yeah, I think, like you said, most Aussie athletes are kind of brought up on that mentality. So it's definitely good to see that it's translating across the world as well.
Definitely is. Definitely.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your stories and what you've gone through, I guess, as a women's basketball player coming through the ranks and now with the WNBA and what you're doing to kind of grow the game in terms of coaching and stuff like that. And obviously the story of cooking some male basketballers, that's always fun. Thank you so much for coming on again, and I hope you've enjoyed the time on here as well.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I definitely enjoyed it and I hope people listening to this get inspired to watch more women's basketball because it's on the come up.